Oirirwota omurozi wa 4 TV biriwe kwezi mwenda okwezo kwa kasatu omwagwe 2026 kandi rekanhire ngo osibire kurungi kwicheho oikirize nkwicheho Agatahingurwa kandi omusomi mwago ndi atugondeze Marina Diere ekero keizo ensiyona ijagwizege ekero ekyo kwijuka abakazi kandi omukiro keno yensi yabanijuka ebirungi by'abakazi ebakozere omukororangu ihanga hoteli nensiyona yakorakorana itwenka 4 TV tukuletire omukazi orangano omukazi nkwatangabo omukazi owamani kandi wasobwire kwebisaho obo nakora omulimo ogwo kutera matafali kandi omulimo guno gukizira muno okumanywa ngo omulimo gukorwa abaseija baitu hatu wakachamo kwetera matafali okwetungira ensimbi omusake waitu leka twicheho ebikera halibinu
Nkatandika omulimo guno ogwe 2018 obu naswirwe omusaija wange nasanga nakora omulimo guno nahurra nyegombere nti anyegesa omulimo guno tugukole babiri atambere mu byakanyegesa twatandika kusamba obudongo twatandika kutera amatafali sazino obudongo ninyesambera nimbuhisa kandi na matafali nsobora kutera ekiro kimu ka matafali nka 10 kyonko obuzibu bwenjura buli barakiro no botasobora kutera amatafali 10 buli barakiro baitu kakwamba buli bwire bw'omusana nosobora kutera amatafali nka 10 ira mu ebirungi bingi nyihera mwenjwe imukorole egi permanent umusaija kamusanga ali munjwe yitaka twakwataniza twayombeka enjwe egi ya amatafali tuhiramo omulimo gundi gwa outside catering ntuchumba amagenye tuchumbira abantu 10 12 twine ebintu ebyitwa awetu tukupangisa twererira abana mwana wetu kubanza nabanza kuzara P7 tena cyaburwa haisomero school fees agisasura mbwire kandi mwana mugezi nabwo cyo mulimo guno ngoboreremo ebintu bingi ntungiramo amagezi maingi kandi ntungiramo nebizo bingi abo koso kuterina tukabata kwesobora kwa tukatandikira hansi nosanga ubundi twavuwaga kulya ubundi abana bababingaga haisomero betati ebyona bikahwaho twatandikira en business bana tubababinga kandi tubwo cyokuri tuina plan yo kuombeka enjwe nkoto tukombeka na majo agabapangisa itaka lino lyongera toro tukagura ni itaka antwande tukombeka enjwe yeitu murange nimbaterera kwekamba kukora hakubensi yenwe funzire tosokulinda ngo musaija arakukora buli kintu arakikuhikiyaho nangu akonyo sazo ntindinda nkaito tindinda rugoye tindinda ki buli kintu kyona tukwataniza nkekiyaho betata nosanga abakazi nalinda akavera nalinda urunyanya nalinda akatunguru nalinda sabuni yake nikibahabura bekambe bakole niko basobole kusobora ubumezi bwensi yana
ati nkaito nto batstaine ko kuseka ogamba kale ni yonse itulumu niyo tukutambura emirimo tutuine abandi nosanga tebasomere sazo nona bintu byogamba somere no funa mulemo sango mukazi tosomere atya bit toine tokuseka naona basere cyokulya na sere ntasha 12 nkwara ibisaho na family
webala msake waitu hawa ikurwelere rungi kandi utugumiza mu murozi waitu murungi Obutugemizamu n'okujaguza ekiro ky'abakazi ekibeerera okwezi munana okwezi okwa kasatu buli mwaka kandi ekiro okujaguza ekiro eky'omwaka kuno kibaire hakikale ekya ceremonial grounds omu rubuga rwa Kampala na mbere abebembezi ahoteire n'abaikazi ba Uganda bengi besoroize okujaguza ekikale eki omugenyi okujaguza ekiro eki omugenyi mukuru abaire wekitinisa Jessica Alupo kandi ono myuka wa president wa Uganda watasoboire kuba wekitinisa Yoweri Kaguta Museveni kandi ateereho muno enkondo ya kaleju hamugaso okugaramu abakazi amani ahoteire nokwinganiza na muno mu kikora eky'abantu omusaki waitu abeereyo kololo kandi reka bitwikiyo.
I congratulate all the women of Uganda and indeed all the people of Uganda on this special day when we are yet again commemorating the International Women's Day. I thank the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development upon the successful organization of today's commemoration, and I sincerely thank you for the warm welcome you accorded me this morning when I arrived here. Let me also assure all of you, including Hajat Farida, the Chairperson Women Council, the UN Resident Commissioner and your team, the Minister of Gender, that all the messages you have expressed here, which are directly meant to be conveyed to His Excellency the President, will be integrated into a report and will be relayed to the highest destination, and that is to His Excellency the President's office. I shall promise you that as a woman, we shall pursue for the feedback together up to the logical conclusion. I thank the parade commander and her team for putting up such a spectacular march past parade. Thank you very much for entertaining us, including the members of the band. Let me now read to you the message of His Excellency the President. The message of His Excellency the President goes as follows. Fellow countrymen, countrywomen, and especially the Bazukulu, the International Women's Day is an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the significant role played by women and girls in our families, local communities, and the country at large. I therefore want to thank you all for using this occasion to highlight the contribution of women and girls in all the spheres of life. In 1986, when the NRM came to power, we were able to observe that although women formed more than 50% of the total population of 14 million Ugandans, their full potential was not fully realized on account of their lack of education. lack of opportunities, chronic ill health, and early death. Women were trapped in a very disadvantaged position, despite the fact that they were at the center of the subsistence economy, and also provided at least half of the labor for producing the few cash crops. The NRM fought the suppression of women and other groups that faced marginalization on account of historical and cultural factors by doing the following. First and foremost, guaranteeing education access for all at primary, secondary levels, i.e., UPE and USE. This was a fundamental empowerment of the girl child, because once somebody is educated, he or she cannot easily be suppressed. Therefore, education and skilling of the girl child is an effective method of empowering not only women, but the entire society. Thirdly, in order to provide justice to women, we introduced big punishments for rape and defilement. This was aimed at protecting the women who are the victims of these crimes. And last but not least, we have also fought against inhuman cultural practices that undermine the dignity of women, such as female genital mutilation, early marriages, wife inheritance, wife beating.
International Women's Day is celebrated to remember the struggle that women and men throughout the world worked hard, struggled to achieve women's empowerment. It is a day that we celebrate the gains that we have made and reflect on the agenda that still remains to be done. We celebrate the struggle, the courage of all the women who are determined, the ordinary rural women who have worked tirelessly to feed their families, to educate their children, to anchor Uganda as a society, because without the family, Uganda does not have a foundation. And without the women, there is no family.
This year's theme is focusing on justice, and women's access to justice strongly resonates with the spirit of protection, the gains Uganda has made in governance, human rights, and inclusive development. Her Excellency, we commend government has continued commitment to gender inclusion within the justice sector. Today, women constitute over 50.6% of the judiciary in Uganda, demonstrating remarkable progress in Uganda's leadership.
Wabale omuseko waitu habo makuru agagarungi akabatusakira kandi utugumizamu omurozi waitu omurungi hubo ba members aba ekitebe ekya yahura yohoza ekyarwa kya kibunya sako basoboire kuba nibatangatangana hamo na bembezi babo kuruga mu kwibito town council kandi obo bahayo nimbalira ya sako ahoteire na reporte yokoleka nkoko ekitebeki kisoboire kuba nikikora kandi mu rukurato nururumu hubo abembezi basakege wa kibunya ahoteire na ba members bakasabwa korango hakene bagomezamu nomuze omurungi ogwa yahura ogwa kwahura ensimbi sente zabo nuko kino kibakonyere obulyao korakoranisa entasha omumaka gabo. Omuseke waitu abereyo kandi reka bitwikiyeho.
Orukora tokarunungu wagaba dividends musentinare tibikozereke tibiri rates zinyakuri hano kuri tizikozereke kuri musentinare ko teresa hebiro bibiri ngutosaswire norora kadengeri nka ebi niyo nibitutinisa kujamu Bank of Uganda. So buying of loans first put it on hold okuyogambiroli mutakagenzere that Wachachibunya is the way to go. Two loans you have a fear tukabanza ita affordability ora ine busoboziki kumuharoni zindi so nabutukongereri ntorora repayment history torora na your affordability. We don't just give loans kandi ekini tukikora korora ntubanze ku benchmarkinga kwetegereza gakuba tubaba krista bahikirire kagamba no harwine rone muyonga turi bateito so umuriyegengeri yo kurya maroni mengi ito ntenda tubajune mureka kujya kurya maroni garagabeyi agabeyi kali ogaruke kuno murwacha kibunyora aba watwire roni ya miliyoni 2 nkugambira osaswireho wasigaza mukaka. We can you add you a million, why not? We can add you too. Akubo bona twire roni ya miliyoni 2 ebizibu byanga biona bitahwere hawo abamu ni ntwara roni miliyoni 2 kusakalenje garamiza bakurgonda agatunda wapi so nisigara ninyetagachi akachenji munsawo so habachi ngena mwakafuna kurya miliyoni emu akansaba amitwara 3 omwezi kumbe Rwachachibunya ne banyitagaho mitwaro 2. So we are trying to save the situation. We are not total assets okuda wa Rwachachibunya yabugalira bakwata bilioni 18 assets is 9 current akakwata bilioni 3 na milioni 5 kaganini. Current assets yafuna total ya 14 bilioni kaka atano nina millions yona hamu ya kwatu ukuda wa bilioni 18 na milioni 218 yagenda mu equity and liabilities ahali members share capital 3 bilioni milioni 295 share transfer fund kwa kuturuzire kuri income statement na yahura yakwata yasanga cumulative rate ine milioni 17 statutory reserve cumulative yasanga tuine milioni 395 na musanju 395 revolving milioni 17 education fund milioni 13 retained earnings 1 billion milioni 976 donated equity cumulative 2 million na milioni na mitwaro 8
Omukazi ningoza kusima Rwachachibunya sako emyaka eyimazire ndi nabo ebintu ebinyira mu Rwachachibunya sako ine projects pigare poultry Rwachachibunya sako through giving low interest rate 2% reducing nsobera kukoraho ebintu nk'omukazi nkeka perera abana school fees more especially mbwira bw'abana bakwambaga ku isomero share zange zinaguzira nizemara kusasa school fees y'abana bange ingoza kusima abantu abatungire kitekerezo kinu habo kutandika sakeno mwaka gwa 12 nibatandikira mu kanisa ya Kibito abantu abo mukama bahumugisa na muno muna abacyaro ntubasi
nimbora ningenda ninyahayisente zange ninsasara
agenda twagenda mu mfumo
ndoke kumba kutarwa cyane sakunga abantu kazi cyeyombekera tinkwemara bitwihani ngita bakampalone na guritaka bayombekere nzambate 10 kandi yakanyamba muno kwerera abana ko school fees yakabindende okwe bisao kurasaza nundu kurungi muno nimbasiyo
kataha mu Rwachachibunya sako 2016 ekyansikirize muno kutaha mu kitebe ekyo kyarwa musake gyarwa kyakibunya sako kikaba kiri kurora ngu ninkanyetaga enkurakurano kyokubanza ekyakabiri bakaba bayina ebintu kwegesebwa especially financial management abokuba akaba alimu emisomo nyingi kandi emisomo egyo esobora kurora yankonyera ng'omuntu saka egyo enyambire mu bintu bingi muno ekintu ekyokubanza nogo amagezi ago ngatungire nokera muno habintu ebyo ebyensimbi ekyakabiri obu natahire mu kabanta inanju ngatunga enju kandi enju ebarikweta ya permanent yeja yankonyera
webale musaki habwa amakuru ago kandi muruzi wito murungi wakirize tubanze tumule mukataito nitigoruga otaruga Hafo TV.
Fort TV, stay entertained.
Webaleyo omukahumurako kandi otugumizamo na Agatahingurwa bammo habakorasi morkorato rukuru rwihanga abakakomwa barugire n'abatangatangana wigo rukurato rukuru rwihanga wekitinisa Anet Among kandi bamugamba nko kubakujja okumusagika abammo abakorasi morkorato rukuru rwihanga no hali owekitinisa Lawrence akugizibwe kandi ono mukorasi mu rukurato rukurihanga habwa Mwenge North ono agambere ngo abakorasi okusagika omukazi Anita Mongo na muno kuruga mu kitweka ekyatoro nikijja kubakonyera nabo okusakera toro aho teire nebikara okuba nebebembera okorangu enkorakorana yongera kimo okubaho omusaki waitu abaireho kandi lekabtichiyo.
Recently tukaba tugenzere Kampala okutangatangana Honorable Adolf Mwesige Clerk Parliament wetu twamazire okuratora wetu na Clerk Parliament na speaker nawe yatangatangana members of Parliament Purgatorio region kandi yaturamtyaho so mukuturamtyaho members bayikiraniza ngo bamusagike koku abaira speaker ali incumbent bamusagike ayongera tunga kisanja kya kabiri. But of course SEC neija kudisaidinga candidate wa NRM wera frontinga caucus ya NRM neija kuikara nayo nechwamu kandi itwe nkaba members of Parliament Purgatorio Anita tumwino kizibu mu incumbent wa NRM kandi abaina akora tumurwano mu mbungo za president mu ihanga liona abaina Rubata she is still energetic. So, obwar kumizamu akebembera nka speaker itwe nkatoro twenda strategizing because no twa meeting katugambira in a special attachment na toro munywano wa toro so tugonza tuyambe so kwa mugisa ko ku speaker Anita Mongo kutugambira ngo ine special attachment na toro kumwekonyeza okutunga ebintu bya toro tukwetaga na muno urugudo runo umujuka no bayizira hatikali last year hampango akarubazaho muno kandi na hati naro nabo na cyarteka mu amani so ito twenda twosogo mugisa ukwa kutumanya kurungi nita tumanya kurungi tumwekonyeza korora ensonga nko urugudo rwa Kampala Fort Portal korwe Industrial Park ya Fort Portal kabarore toro ekorwe ekizaniro cy'ompira stadium ya toro ekorwe na ensonga ezindi n'orugudo rwetu kuruga Fort Portal hakabale kugenda kijora kigoyera naru rusobole kukorwa nuko tusobole kororangu twagobora omuntu yakaniza ya speaker mbwebembezi bwe mwekonyeza korwa itwe katoro
kandi utugumizamo na Agatahingurwa umurozi waitu Murungi mukuru w'ihanga la Uganda wakitinisa Yoweri Kaguta Museveni agumibwe okuba chairperson wa East African Community Heads of State Summit kandi yaraganiza okurana hamwe n'amahanga go okurorangu habaho enkoragana nunge ahoteire n'enkorakorana kandi kigambibwa koko agumibwe omwihanga erya Tanzania omurubuga Arusha kandi habere hali yabembezi aba East Africa bona obaye batangatangaine okubazaho ensonga zitalize minazimu ezirakonyera East Africa okukorakorana akagendera kimu omaiso omusaka waitu ekirize atwichio.
Your Excellencies, heads of state of the East African Community, the delegation leaders, the Secretary General, members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from the people of Uganda. Thanks for electing me to chair the East African Community Authority for the next 1 year. At this point in history, and given my 65 years of either watching closely or being right in the center of events on our much troubled continent, I feel compelled to use this occasion to bring up the issue of Okonesa, Okufubia, miscooking the African Revolution. Okonesa, Kufubia in our languages of the lakes, is a process where the food is not properly or consistently cooked by not applying the necessary heat for the necessary duration, and it ends up being undercooked. Kukona, Kufuba. By 1900, the whole of the African continent had been colonized, except for Ethiopia, which had defeated the Italian imperialists in 1896 at Adowa. This was squarely the fault of the African chiefs and kings who had watched the slow encroachment of these European invaders right from the time when the Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople, Istanbul, in 1453, closing the overland route to Asia for Europe, pioneered by Marco Polo around the years 1271 to 1295. The Historical Commission now for the Black race and the other colonized peoples was liberation against imperialists through the worldwide anti-colonial movement. In the case of Africa, the Historical Commissions were liberation, ukombozi, uhuru, modernization, creation of prosperity, and provision of strategic security against all threats. How are we to achieve this? Uhuru na umoja, freedom and unity. Unity, freedom would enable us to control our destiny again. Umoja would enable us to address the issue of prosperity and strategic security. How was prosperity to be achieved, and how is it achieved in other countries? With modern economics, prosperity is achieved through the production and sale of the goods or services that one is capable of producing. To sell, however, you need markets. Producers need buyers to succeed. Producers need buyers to succeed. Economic stagnation and the suffering of the populations. What is generating the migration of the African youth that are dying in the Mediterranean Sea going to Europe? It is the narrowness of the money economy of Africa that does not create necessary jobs. One of the consequences of not fully integrating our markets, investors get frustrated when they cannot export within even the East African community. The GDP of Africa today, the GDP of the whole of Africa is US dollars 3.6 trillion. The whole of Africa, Africa yote, the GDP is 3.6 trillion.
Ladies and gentlemen, a key obstacle to trade in our region is the ever-evolving non-tariff barriers that continue to hinder effective trade between and among partner states. Eliminating NTBs, enhancing infrastructure connectivity, and regulatory harmonization remain a key priority among my stewardship of the community. I am therefore pleased to inform you that our concerted efforts to eliminate non-tariff barriers have yielded results, with the number of reported barriers declining by about 56% from 61 NTBs in 2024 to 27 NTBs in 2025. I am sure that my successor is going to drive this effort into the future to ensure that we eliminate roadblocks and barriers to trade between our partner states.
Otugumizamo na Agatahingurwa kandi agakusisana na gumuruzi waitu omurungi omukuru w'ihanga lya Uganda wekitinisa Yoweri Kaguta Museveni agarukire okuruga mu ihanga lya Tanzania na mbere babaire batangatangaine omurukurato rw'omurundi orwa 2005 nkabembezi b'amahanga ga East Africa mu rukurato runo batangatangaine kandi babazaho ensonga zitalizimu na zimu esikwatereine n'enkorakorana ebyobusubuzi ahoteire niboberinze hamo n'enkorakorana na muno omu byengudi musaka waitu leka gatwikiyo. Nkusabale omuseke waitu okutichaho amakuru ago kandi oikereze nkusime habokuba beira muroze murungi na mbere tutandikire kandi hati twahika okumaliriza Agatahingurwa ogakusomera mbeira tugondeze Marina Dieri ninkusaba okwikara 40 vyosemiriru kandi orale kurungi.